viewers, we're back with Dr. Romantic. It's been a while since our last Dr. Romantic digest. Not that we've been slacking off or anything, but with a surge in new shows recently, we've been quite busy. I mean, if you have watched our shows, I'm pretty sure you'll know what I'm talking about. How about a race boss? So, without further ado, let's go over the major scenes from episode 11 to 14. Scene 1. Here we have a tense meeting, more like a standoff between the Toldam staff and a group of lawyers. The lady here is the mother of a patient who just so happened to cause the major highway pileup that took place in the previous shows. So, what's this meeting about? The son, this fella, was hospitalized along with other patients from the accident at Toldam. But this guy happens to be a total mama's boy and indifferent to the tragedy that he has caused. He plays the I don't know what happened innocent boy card. His mother, a typical mama's boy's mama, happens to be greater, let's just say a female canine than his son. It turns out that they sued Seo-jung for collecting the guy's blood sample at the accident site without his proper consent. So Seo-jung explodes and confronts the two and is stonewalled by the unapologetic duo who say that she should just play the doctor and leave the legal and ethical issues to the court. The mother wants an apology from Seo-jung, but of course, Seo-jung, who is one hell of a knucklehead, doesn't give in. So the mom threatens to sue Toldam, and therefore leading up to the scene where the hospital chief tries to arbitrate, sort of a gentleman's settlement. Of course, I don't think anybody who's watched the show can morally stand against Seo-jung. But the situation does raise interesting questions about whether a doctor should inject the notion of morality when carrying out their job. Scene 2. So what do we have here? Dong-ju is in some ominous meeting with Kodae Hospital Chief Do Yun-wan, and Dr. Boo happens to stumble upon them. Dong-ju seems awkward, like he's caught red-handed. What's going on? So, some context. We have two guys that arrive at Toldam ER. One is seriously injured, and the nature of two men's relation is unclear. Dong-ju suspects that the other guy may have caused the injury, perhaps some type of repo henchman. But it turns out that the injured man is actually a soldier that went deserted from his base, and the other guy is a friend. The guy went AWOL because of severe bullying and corporal punishment. So eventually the military police shows up and tries to take custody. But the runaway soldier suddenly falls in critical condition. Dong-ju doesn't allow the MPs to take the soldier, but rather performs an emergency surgery, which seems to have turned out okay. But soon after, the soldier suddenly dies. So, a soldier flees from base due to severe bullying and ends up dead in a commercial hospital. This could have serious repercussions throughout the chain of command. So what does the higher-ups do? Apparently, someone knows Do Yun-wan, calls him and asks to manipulate the cause of death in the autopsy. Do Yun-wan, who's been trying to woo Dong-ju with gifts and early promotion, arrives at Toldam and pushes Dong-ju to do as told. And that's when Dr. Boo, finds out something fishy is going on. Will Dong-ju fall from grace by taking Do Yun-wan's bait? Scene 3. Now this. Is this some quarantine? A lockdown? Apparently, a lot of big things are happening in such a small hospital. So, to put it simply, remember the MERS, guys? The Middle East Respiratory Syndrome that gripped the entire nation last year. Dordam happens to run into a suspected MERS crisis. This begins with a family with cold symptoms that recently traveled to the Middle East, arriving at Dordam ER. Dongju, when he hears the word Middle East from the father, momentarily freezes and looks around at all the patients and staff currently in the ER. He decides to lock down the ER along with all the patients and families, ranging from young children to the elderly. So basically, all Dordam's operations are put on hold. Priority is to contain the situation and examine whether it is indeed a MERS case. This incident takes place at the same time while Kode board chairman is hospitalized for his surgery. The chairman so happens to have pneumonia symptoms, so the stakes are high for Boo-yong-ju and his team to keep him from catching the MERS virus. What makes the bad situation worse is that Dongju collapses in lockdown. As hinted that has overworked himself from constant ER shifts, and either fatigue or some cold symptom got a hold of him. So Seo-jung is obviously alarmed by Dongju's illness. She also happens to be in charge of taking care of the chairman's pre-surgery procedures, so she can't go anywhere near the ER. Also, Dr. Boo sees the situation is spiraling out of control. So, without any proper hazmat equipment at the moment, he has to make a decision on whether or not to enter the ER to save Dongju. So how will Boo and the entire Dordam overcome the crisis? You'll have to check it out for ourselves. We'll be back soon with new Doctor Romantic highlights. Jessica, out!